Good evening. Thank you for joining me. Tonight we're going to talk about what I mean by organic communities and why they're important and how they can help uh, redevelopment in difficult communities in the future. Organic communities is a concept that an individual community shouldn't have its development future dictated by other communities. In the Sacramento region, essentially it means, Oak Park shouldn't have downtown or Natomas or the Arden area telling it what type of development it should be doing. They shouldn't have that type of input. And it works vice versa, right? You don't want Oak Park telling Arden and downtown the type of development they want. It's whether it's Vision Zero or the idea that you shouldn't have drive-through restaurants down Stockton Boulevard or any of these other activities governments take place or restrictions they place on development, that shouldn't be their decision. These decisions should be left as local as possible. And that's important because we need to rebuild a sense of ownership in these difficult communities, in these economically troubled areas. Not just ownership of a house, that's only part of it. It's ownership of the neighborhood, it's ownership of the business, it's ownership of the community. And one of the ways we can fund this is if we look at the monetary policy of the United States, they currently are investing in junk bonds on Wall Street. Now, for those of you who don't know, junk bonds are essentially what they sound. They're bonds whose return is unexpected. That's how we say. There are troubled companies who are most likely going to fail, and these bonds will get written off. But why can't we take that same concept and apply it to our disenfranchised neighborhoods? Why can't, instead of spending our money on Wall Street, why can't we spend it on Martin Luther King Boulevards all across the country? Those are the areas that need it. And what's important is that the ownership will stay in the neighborhood. If a business is successful, they pay back their junk bonds, the ownership stays in the neighborhood. Right? Rather than having some outside investor who comes in on some outside redevelopment plan, gentrifying a neighborhood, you can actually start to build foundations. Even if only a small percentage succeed, it starts to build a foundation. And it's that community foundation that these neighborhoods need. We must stop this notion that outside forces can dictate policy inside these difficult neighborhoods. It hasn't worked. It's time for us to get our hands out and give them help to rebuild their own neighborhoods. That is how we move forward. That is how we rebuild the economy after this COVID mess. That is how we restore freedom. That is how we restore hope. And without hope, these communities will continue to be distressed. We have to give these communities hope. We can do it. We know how to do it. We just need people who are willing to try. We need people who are willing to stand up for their communities and the individuals in their communities and not for the special interests that write them checks. That means a whole new way of doing politics. That means a politics where we turn our backs on the toxic nature and we start approaching with empathy, sympathy, and love. That's how we move forward. We stop fighting with each other, start talking to each other, start talking with each other. Thank you for your time. Good night, and love everybody.